Most men think they know what turns a woman on, but they're dead wrong. They focus on the obvious, the waist, the lips, the usual spots, but there's one place, one type of touch, that most men completely overlook. And it's the difference between being forgettable and being magnetic. And here's the kicker, it's not even about physical touch, it's something much deeper. Older women, women with experience, confidence, and high standards, are drawn to something most men will never understand. Today, I'm going to break down the secret that separates the men they crave from the ones they ignore. And it all comes down to Stoicism. What if I told you that older women aren't looking for just another good-looking guy? That money, status, even charm, they're not enough? Because here's the truth, attraction isn't about what you have, it's about how you make her feel. And the kind of touch that truly gets inside her head? The kind that makes her think about you long after you've walked away? It's not the touch of your hands, it's the way you touch her mind. In this video, we're diving deep into the psychology of attraction, the Stoic principles that make you irresistible, and the one type of touch that most men completely miss. And if you stay till the end, I'm going to give you 3 simple techniques you can use immediately to create the kind of connection that older women can't resist. Let's get into it. Most guys only focus on physical attraction, how they look, what they say, or how much money they can flash. They assume that attraction is about standing out, being the loudest in the room, or dominating the conversation. But here's the hard truth. Older women, the ones who have experience, wisdom, and self-respect, aren't impressed by the same things that might attract someone younger and more naive. They've seen all the tricks before. They know the guy who flexes his wealth but secretly doubts his own worth. They recognize the man who acts like an alpha but crumbles under real pressure. The mistake most men make is believing that attraction is something external. They think looking good, dressing sharp, and showing off status will be enough. And while those things might get attention, they don't create real attraction. If you rely on surface-level qualities, you might get a woman's curiosity, but you won't keep it. Older women, women with experience and self-assurance, aren't looking for a show, they're looking for something real. That's why the bad boy trope fails miserably with them. Younger women might be drawn to the thrill of rebellion, the unpredictability of a reckless man. But older women, they've already met that guy. They've already seen how it ends, empty promises, shallow conversations, and a man who's trying harder to impress himself than anyone else. What they actually crave is depth. A man who isn't trying to prove himself, because he already knows his worth. But the biggest repellent, the thing that instantly turns them off? Neediness. Most men don't even realize when they're being needy. They assume neediness is about texting too much, acting clingy, or constantly seeking validation. But it goes deeper than that. Neediness is any behavior that comes from a place of trying to prove your value. It's the man who constantly steers the conversation toward his achievements. It's the guy who can't handle silence and has to fill every gap with nervous energy. It's the subtle desperation in his compliments, hoping for approval instead of just giving freely. Older women can spot a man who's overcompensating instantly. They've dealt with enough men to recognize when someone is trying too hard, when his confidence is a mask rather than something genuine. And when they sense that, they lose respect fast. Because respect isn't built on words, looks, or wealth. It's built on a presence, a calm, unshakable energy that speaks louder than any flex or performance ever could. Trying to prove yourself is the fastest way to lose a woman's interest. It sends the signal that you don't believe you're enough as you are. And if you don't believe it, why should she? Women, especially those who are emotionally mature and self-aware, aren't looking for a man who needs their approval. They're looking for a man who is already centered, already complete, a man who brings value without trying to force it. The irony is, the more you try to win her over, the more you push her away. Attraction isn't about convincing, it's about allowing. Allowing her to feel drawn to you, rather than demanding her attention. Allowing your presence to speak for itself, rather than scrambling for validation. And the key to this? Stoicism. A man who understands Stoicism doesn't chase approval. He doesn't let external factors dictate his worth. He doesn't crumble when things don't go his way. And that is what makes him magnetic. Because in a world full of men seeking attention, the the one who doesn't need it stands out the most. The biggest mistake men make? Thinking attraction starts in the body. It doesn't. It starts in the mind. Men are wired to be visual, to see and react instantly to physical beauty. But women are emotional first, physical second. If you don't know how to engage her mind, if you don't know how to touch her emotionally before you ever lay a hand on her, you'll always be just another guy. Think about it. Have you ever wondered why women fantasize about fictional characters from books? Why they become obsessed with a character they've never even seen? Because for women, attraction isn't just about looks, it's about how a man makes them feel. A well-written character in a novel doesn't rely on a six-pack or a sports car. He captivates her because of his depth, his confidence, his presence. He knows who he is, he stands firm in his beliefs, and he never seeks approval. That's what women crave. So, how do you become the kind of man who creates that feeling in real life? The answer lies in Stoicism. Stoicism isn't about shutting down your emotions. It's not about becoming cold, distant, or detached. That's a common misconception. True Stoicism is about mastering your emotions, understanding them, controlling them, and never letting them control you. And for women, nothing is more attractive than a man who is in complete control of himself. A stoic man isn't reactive. He doesn't get flustered when a woman tests him. He doesn't try to impress her with empty words or flashy gestures. Instead, he listens. He truly sees her. And when a woman feels seen, when she feels heard and understood, her attraction goes far beyond the physical. She starts to feel something deeper, something real. This is the power of emotional and intellectual touch. And most men completely overlook it. So how do you touch a woman emotionally? How do you create that deep, lasting connection? It's not complicated, but it does require a shift in your mindset. First, practice deep listening. Most guys listen just long enough to figure out when they can jump in and start talking again. But a stoic man listens with intention. He isn't just waiting for his turn to speak. He's absorbing, understanding, and responding in a way that makes a woman feel valued. When you truly listen to a woman, when you ask her about something small she mentioned an hour ago, when you remember details no one else does, you instantly stand out. Second, ask better questions. Most men keep conversations surface level, talking about what they do for work or what movies they like. That's fine, but it doesn't create connection. Instead, ask the kind of questions that make her pause, that make her think. What's something you've always wanted to do but never have? What's a moment in your life that completely changed the way you see the world? Questions like these touch her mind, and once you touch a woman's mind, her body follows. Third, be playfully challenging. Women don't want a man who agrees with everything they say. They want someone who has his own opinions, someone who isn't afraid to push back, but in a way that's fun and engaging. Tease her a little. If she says she loves a certain type of music, challenge her on it in a light-hearted way. Make her laugh. Make her think. Show her that you're not just another guy trying to win her over. You're a man who enjoys the conversation for its own sake. The truth is, older women have met countless men who try to impress them with wealth, looks, or charm. But what they truly crave is presence. A man who is calm, composed, and deeply engaged. A man who knows himself so well that he doesn't need validation from anyone else. A man who touches her not just physically, but emotionally and intellectually. Because when you master that, when you create that deep, emotional pull, physical attraction is no longer a question. It's inevitable. The 3 key touches most men miss. Most guys think physical touch is the only thing that matters. But attraction, real, lasting attraction, is built long before you ever touch her physically. It starts with something much deeper. When you learn to touch a woman's mind, emotions, and sense of adventure, you create something far more powerful than a fleeting moment of attraction. You create a connection that stays with her, even when you're not around. Let's break this down. 1. Touch her mind. A man who can stimulate a woman's mind is dangerous in the best way. He doesn't just exist in her presence. He stays in her thoughts, long after the conversation is over. Why? Because he makes her think. He challenges her. He pulls her into an experience she wasn't expecting. Most men ask the same predictable, boring questions. What do you do for work? Where are you from? What kind of movies do you like? These are interview questions. They don't create excitement. They don't pull her into a deeper experience. If you want to stand out, you need to ask better questions. Questions that make her feel something. Instead of asking, what do you do for work? Ask, what's something you've always wanted to do but never had the chance? See the difference? One is factual. The other taps into imagination, desire, and curiosity. Here's how this plays out in real life. Woman, I always wanted to travel more. You, what's stopping you? She explains. You, so if I handed you a plane ticket right now, where would you go? Suddenly, she's feeling something. She's picturing herself in another country. She's imagining an adventure. And because you were the one who triggered that feeling, she unconsciously associates that excitement with you. That's how you touch a woman's mind. You don't just talk to her. You make her experience something. And that's unforgettable. 2. Touch her emotions. Older women don't want superficial. They don't care about how much you bench press or how many watches you own. They want depth. They've been through relationships, heartbreaks, and life changes. They don't need a man who impresses them with money. They need a man who impresses them with presence. Presence is everything. The way you listen. The way you respond. The way you make her feel understood, without needing her approval. Here's how you create emotional attraction. Validate her emotions without simping. If she shares something deep, acknowledge it without overpraising. Say, that makes sense, or I can see why that mattered to you. This shows you're engaged but not overly eager to please. Be genuinely curious about her experiences. If she talks about something she's passionate about, ask deeper questions. What drew you to that? Or, how did that change the way you see things? This makes her feel heard, and that's powerful. Share your own philosophy on life. Depth is rare in men. Most guys try too hard to be agreeable. But a man with his own worldview, his own way of seeing life, is incredibly attractive. If she asks your opinion, don't just say, yeah, I agree. Say, here's how I see it, and give her something real. Women are drawn to men who make them feel. A man who can touch her emotions makes her feel something she can't ignore. 3. Touch her sense of adventure. Women are naturally drawn to men who lead. And no, this doesn't mean controlling her. It means creating experiences. It means taking charge in a way that feels effortless, fun, and exciting. Too many men are indecisive. They hesitate. They ask permission for everything. And while that might seem respectful, it actually kills attraction. Women want a man who can take them somewhere, physically, emotionally, and mentally. Most guys make weak, passive invitations. Want to grab coffee? Do you want to hang out sometime? Let me know when you're free. None of these spark emotion. None of these create excitement. Instead, you need to lead with certainty. I know this hidden cafe with the best espresso in the city. We're going. There's this amazing jazz bar I want to check out. You'd love it. Let's go. Meet me at location. I have something cool to show you. See the difference? One is boring. The other is exciting. A woman wants to feel like she's being brought into an experience. She doesn't want to make all the decisions. She wants to follow your lead, but only if you give her something worth following. Adventure isn't just about travel. It's about the way you communicate, the way you frame experiences, the way you make her feel like being with you is an escape from the ordinary. When you combine all three, touching her mind, her emotions, and her sense of adventure, you become a man who isn't just attractive, but unforgettable. Because attraction isn't about trying to prove yourself. It's not about convincing a woman to like you. It's about creating an experience she never wants to leave. Okay, so we've covered the psychological and emotional touch. Now let's talk physical. Because at the end of the day, Attraction is both mental and physical. But here's the thing, most men get this part completely wrong. They think attraction is about escalating fast. They try to make a move too soon, misreading the moment, or worse, forcing physical touch when it's not welcome. And that kills attraction instantly. Where most men go wrong. Most men fall into one of these traps when it comes to physical touch. Too aggressive too soon. They think they have to make a move immediately to show intent. But touching a woman before she's emotionally comfortable? That makes her pull back, not lean in. Over-reliance on physical touch instead of emotional connection. Some guys use physical touch as a shortcut, thinking if they just touch her enough, attraction will build. But if there's no emotional foundation, physical touch feels empty, or even creepy. Seeking validation through touch instead of leading naturally. Some guys use physical touch as a test. If she doesn't respond well, they panic. They're not leading, they're seeking approval. And women can feel that. So what's the right way to use physical touch? How do you do it naturally, without coming off as pushy, awkward, or desperate? The right way to touch her, non-sleazy ways to build attraction. Physical touch should feel effortless. It should feel like a natural extension of the energy between you, not something you're trying to force. Here's how you do it right. Light, natural touch on the forearm when making a point. This is one of the most subtle but effective ways to build attraction. A quick, casual touch on her forearm when emphasizing a point makes the conversation feel more engaging and intimate. For example, no way you really believe that? That's wild. Light touch on her forearm as you smile. This kind of touch doesn't scream, I'm hitting on you. Instead it says, I'm comfortable with physicality, and I'm inviting you to be too. Holding eye contact slightly longer than usual. Physical touch isn't just about actual touch. It's also about presence. And one of the most powerful forms of physical connection. Eye contact. Most guys break eye contact too soon because they feel nervous. But the key is to hold it just a little longer than feels natural. Example. She's telling a story, and you're looking at her, not staring, but fully engaged. When she finishes, instead of immediately responding, you hold eye contact for just a second longer before speaking. That subtle pause? That builds tension. And tension. That's attraction. Playful teasing with a light push or tap on the shoulder. Playfulness is key to attraction. It shows confidence, comfort, and fun. And a great way to add physical touch naturally? Playful teasing. Example. She says something sarcastic. Instead of just laughing, you gently tap her shoulder and say, "Oh, so that's how it is," with a smirk. She tells you she's a better cook than you. You lightly push her arm back and say, "Yeah, right, I don't believe that for a second." This kind of touch is low pressure, natural, and fun. It creates a back-and-forth dynamic, making physical connection feel effortless instead of awkward. The golden rule of physical touch. Here's the most important thing. Physical touch should feel natural, not forced. If she leans in, you're doing it right. If a woman is comfortable, she'll respond positively to your touch. She might lightly touch you back, lean in when you speak, or playfully push you in return. But if she tenses up, pulls away, or doesn't reciprocate, that's your cue to slow down. Attraction isn't about pushing, it's about creating an environment where touch happens naturally. When you master this, physical touch becomes effortless. And when it's effortless, that's when it's the most powerful. Older women are drawn to stability, control, and confidence. They've been through relationships, heartbreaks, and life experiences that have shaped them. They don't fall for the same tricks that might work on younger, more impressionable women. And that's why Stoicism is such a powerful mindset shift for men who want to naturally attract them. Stoic rule: detach from outcome. Never chase, attract. Most men chase. They try too hard. They overcompensate. They seek validation. A Stoic man, he doesn't chase. He attracts. He understands that his worth isn't defined by whether or not a woman likes him. His confidence isn't fragile. He doesn't need constant reassurance. and that makes him stand out. Older women can feel when a man is centered in himself versus when he's looking for something outside of himself to complete him. This is why the Stoic approach works so well. It's not about playing games or manipulating emotions. It's about being so sure of yourself that women naturally gravitate toward your presence. The most attractive man isn't the loudest in the room. A common mistake men make, thinking they need to be the most dominant personality to get attention. They think they need to be loud, flashy, or constantly proving themselves. But true attractiveness isn't about being the center of attention. It's about being the center of gravity. A Stoic man doesn't compete for attention. He commands it effortlessly. He walks into a room and carries himself with quiet certainty. He doesn't rush to fill silence. He doesn't seek approval. He's comfortable in his own skin. And that energy, that's magnetic. Your presence is your power. Attraction isn't about trying harder. It's about being more present. Women, especially older women, are deeply intuitive. They can sense when a man is comfortable in his own presence versus when he's trying to manufacture confidence. That's why the biggest shift you can make is understanding that you don't need to prove yourself. You don't need to chase. You don't need to be the loudest, richest, or most dominant man in the room. You just need to be solid in who you are. Because when you do that, women don't just notice you, they feel you. And that's what creates a real connection. Attraction isn't about tricks. It's not about lines, money, or trying to be something you're not. It's about who you are. Older women, the ones who have seen the highs and lows of relationships, are looking for something real. They don't fall for superficial displays of status. They're drawn to a man who is rooted in himself, a man who isn't looking for validation but instead radiates quiet confidence. That's why Stoicism is such a game changer. When you develop the ability to stay centered, detach from outcomes, and lead with presence, you naturally create attraction without forcing it. You become the kind of man who doesn't chase but instead pulls people in through his energy. And that's what separates men who struggle in their relationships from those who seem to effortlessly connect with women. If you've made it this far, it means you're serious about stepping into a higher level of attraction and presence. And I promise you, once you start applying these principles, everything changes. You'll notice how women respond differently to you. Conversations will feel easier, more natural, because you're not trying to prove yourself. You're just being. And when you show up like that, that's when the right women will truly feel drawn to you. If you want to master true masculine confidence, hit that subscribe button and check out my other videos on Stoicism and attraction. I break down exactly how to develop the kind of presence that commands respect and draws people in effortlessly. And before you go, drop a comment below. What's one thing you've learned about real attraction? What's something that's shifted your perspective? I want to hear from you. And remember, attraction isn't about tricks. It's about who you are.